You're listening to Shawna and LaLa. Today on the show, we have Frank De Raffele, Executive Director of BNI, which I am a part of. It is a business networking group, and it is very early in the morning, 7 a.m. So you can imagine me rolling out of bed at like 6:55.
Shauna's not a morning person, but
Not at all.
I'm glad she's doing it.
Yes. But Frank, how did you get started in BNI? You obviously have your own business.
Well, first I want to say that if you're rolling out of bed at 6:55, then I'm really impressed because that's amazing how you show up. You're very lively. So you're the goal to, so I can't get together in 5 minutes. So if you can get together in 5 minutes, that's really impressive. So, um, well, I in BNI, I've had a consulting and training company for forever. Kind of for 30 something years, and I grew up and was down in Westchester County, right above New York City. And I had somebody come and invite me to a chapter. In fact, invited me to a chapter for 6 months, and I kept saying no. And then finally, I said yes because I was changing some things in my business. So I said, okay, let me see what this is about. And I went to a meeting. And actually, I went to the meeting with a very negative attitude. Like I hadn't gotten there yet. And I was like, what am I doing? This is dumb. I don't think it's going to be any good. But I got there and they impressed the heck out of me how well it was run. It was a very good, strict business agenda. They're very serious about what you do, but it was also a very friendly atmosphere. So it had that combination of being a great business meeting, but a fun place to be. And so I sat there, and at the end of the first meeting, I was like, I went from like, this is dumb, I shouldn't have been here, to at the end of the meeting, I was like, yep, I'll sign up. What do I do? And I joined, I became a member down in Westchester County. And then after about, I think it was maybe a year of being in that chapter, that was in White Plains, is where I was. I wanted to open a chapter in Scarsdale, which is where I lived and had my business. So I opened a chapter there as the president of that chapter. We grew that chapter to about 35, 37 people. And then I started, running that chapter as the president. And they asked me to be a director down there. And at the time it was called an assistant director. And so I started helping to open chapters and fix chapters and make chapters better. And I really loved the whole concept of BNI and what it was. I love the philosophy of giver's gain philosophy of that you grow your business, but you do it by helping others. So I love that. And then I ended up after about another year. So I was going to move up here to where I am now, up in the mid Hudson Valley area. I was moving up to Dutchess County. There was no BNI up here. So I said, geez, I'd love to be involved in this. And it's a franchise. So I bought the franchise for the mid Hudson Valley area. And that was actually, as of now, it was 30 years ago. As of now, we started, this is our 30th anniversary year this year.
Oh,
So
wow. So if somebody wants to get involved, what is the process?
But really, I mean, the good news is BNI is everywhere now. So it went from, like I said, when I first got involved, it was only in the United States. It was like 30, 35 states. And then it expanded from there. And now it's in, I think, 76 countries. So it's like everywhere you could imagine. And especially here in the United States, it's pretty much every major state has it. Almost every major city and suburb around the city has it. So all you really need to do is to find it, you could just go to, BNI.com, or just put BNI and then the city that you're in. It'll tell you those local chapters. We're the BNI Mid Hudson Valley region. So if people are in this area, which is we have Dutchess, Orange, Ulster, Sullivan counties, they can be in a chapter here. And now because of COVID, it was funny, BNI before COVID, every single chapter in the world was in person, every one. There was no online chapters.
Wow.
And then COVID hit, and in a matter of like 4 weeks, we went to every single chapter being online, none being in person because of COVID. And we stayed online for about 2 years, and now we have both. So in every region, you'll have online, what is called permanent online chapters, that they only do online meetings. You have permanent in-person chapters, they only do in-person meetings. And then you have hybrid chapters that might have, one or two meetings a week in person, one or two meetings a week online. So depending on on the chapter. So it's really great because it allows different people with different conveniences, if you will, to pick a chapter that's best for them in terms of that, right? So, and we have people actually, even though we're centered in the Mid Hudson Valley area, we've had people from other parts of the country join our chapter because they wanted to be in this area, and so we've been able to expand geographically as well. So it's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, in our group we have people from Ohio,
Oh, really?
upstate, like I forget where Gina's from, but like
I
somewhere up by like Canada, I think.
I didn't know anything about BNI, and Shauna actually had me come and join as a guest, and At first, like I was like you, like when people were telling you to come on, I was like, come on, Sean, I don't want to do this, you know? I don't know what's it gonna do. But it was great. Like I got to learn about different businesses I didn't even know were in the area. I had
Right.
people who then supported strangers that were in the group, supported my business, added me on social media, and I learned I not necessarily learned a lot, but I gained a lot from the meeting of talking to people, hearing how they help
Yeah.
their business grow. And it is a great thing that I don't think a lot of people know about or are utilizing. And it's a great thing if you have a business to join.
Yeah, I think one of the things that makes the meetings really interesting and productive is it's funny that a lot of people will be in networks for their profession, like they'll be in the local real estate association group or mortgage, whatever it might be. But BNI is about that diversity of businesses, if you will. So it's kind of like you imagine a chamber of commerce, which I'm a big believer in the chambers. I think you should be a member of one. And chambers have every business you can imagine there. BNI is the same. So in one chapter, you'll have many, many different professions there. And what's really nice about it is exclusive by profession, right? So if I go in and I'm a chiropractor, I will be the only chiropractor in the chapter. So it's an exclusive membership, which allows the whole point is for everyone to get to know each other, to build relationships, to build loyalty to each other, and then refer business. So when you're there, I think what's really nice about it is you'll be sitting there and you'll have people who are attorneys in different professions. You could have, like I said, different types of doctors there, chiropractors there, plumbers, electricians, engineers, pretty much you can name it. Like any business you can name can be in BNI. So
Yeah.
it's really amazing to see how that goes forward. And then I think what people learn in BNI a lot is, I'm in this group and they're thinking, okay, well, these other professions, they're not really related to me, so they're not going to help me. But they don't understand. We tell people, don't judge by somebody or categorize somebody by their profession. Because the reality is they have mom, dad, sisters, brothers, cousins, uncle, friends that all need your service. And they can be referring you out. They may not be like what we call a referral source. They may not be able to refer you over and over because they're not in your world, but they can refer you regularly to people that they know. So that's really the amazing people is when people come into BNI, there's a lot to learn. So networking, word of mouth marketing, and referrals are a learned skill, right? They're not a natural thing. Some people are a little more natural talkers and can network better, but it's all a learned skills. When people come into BNI, we teach them how to do this. And once they get the skills down, then they really flourish and their business grows.
Yeah. You've been amazing with Shauna. I listen in sometimes when you're helping her with networking, and it's hard. Sometimes you think networking is easy, but it really is difficult in many ways, and you do need that extra help. You do.
You have to be outgoing, I think, because you're very quiet.
Me, yeah, I can be.
No, but that's not true. That's not true. I think what's really important is, if you're going to be out networking, it's about doing it authentically, doing it as you. We have a gentleman in our organization who wrote a book, and it was called. Now I remember it was called the introverted network or something like that. So basically saying like, how can you be an effective networker and you're not an outgoing person? And that's not really the people who make the best sales. It's like I've done sales training for years and people think, well, those people that are really outgoing people are the best salesmen. That is not true. People who are the best salesmen are those that are most authentic in what they do, meaning they're themselves. And when they're themselves, then people really gravitate towards them in terms of that. So, because sometimes you'll have you get that idea, oh, a salesman, he talks a lot and he's loud, whatever. And that's kind of like the used car salesman look, everybody
Yeah,
thinks that,
like
right?
phony.
That's not true, right? But if you're authentic, it's the way you are, that's what makes a difference. So, when you're networking, it's really about just being yourself and just, and learning how to have a good conversation with somebody. That's all, not sell, but have a good conversation. And if you're doing that, it can work for you effectively. And I think the key in BNI is when people say, oh, BNI is a great networking organization. What I'll say is BNI is not a networking organization. It's a referral organization, right? We're a referral organization that uses networking as our tool to refer business. So to me, a general networking organization is about meeting people, expanding your network, getting to know people better. And that's wonderful. But there's no necessarily end result in that. So in BNI, we get focused on what the end result is. So we measure how many referrals are crossing the table, how much money is being passed, how much money is, how much closed business is happening. So we can measure everybody in the chapter, how much money they're making in the region. Like in our region, for example, we've averaged for the last 10 years, our members have passed somewhere between 25 and $30 million per year to each other in the Mid-Hudson Valley region.
Wow.
That goes from member to member. So we're in our 30th year and we're finishing this calculation now, but it appears that our members have passed a little over $600 million in the last 30 years to each other. Yeah. So, it's pretty high. It's pretty amazing. Because obviously the first few years we only had a few chapters, and it started to grow. And then we have chapters that pass a lot. So it's all about, for me in this region, it's all about the end result. If you're not making money from BNI, then somehow it's not working for you. Or maybe you're just not making as much as you think you should. And so that's what we say, that's what we have our directors for. Sit with your directors. They'll sit with you. They'll coach you. They'll help you become more effective at this so you can get a greater result. In the end, that's what it's all about.
That's amazing. That's crazy when you
I
think
didn't know
about
it was that much.
Yeah, yeah. That's good.
I'm thinking like 20, 30,000, 50,000.
That's good.
So there you go, Shawna. We got to get you a piece of that pie now. You know what
Yes.
I'm saying? Piece of that pie. So
We need it.
we're going to have you up there with Joe Rogan. And you'll be up there and be like,
that would be the dream, right?
That would be great.
So, and Shawna told me that you wrote some books too yourself.
Yeah, I have a few books out. The last one I wrote is called Business, Networking, and Sex, Not What You Think. And it was with Dr. Ivan Misner, the founder of BNI. He and I wrote that book together with another lady named Hazel Walker. And so the three of us got together. And what it's about is, unlike the title, it's about the differences in gender in the way that they network in business and communicate in business. So there's the man's perspective, the women's perspective, and then we have what we call the data perspective. I think we ended up getting surveys back from, I think it was over about 11, 12,000 people worldwide. And from that data, we then kind of wrote the book, which basically tells like, what are the differences between the way that men and women communicate and the way that they network, and how do you do it more effectively at work? So basically, if you're working together, if you're doing sales, if you're working on a team, whatever, but how do you collaborate better with the opposite sex so you can be a more effective team? So we did a book on that. That was the last one that we did. Very first book I did was called Successful Business Networking. I had another one that's called 200 Ways to Increase Profits Now. We're working on a couple others. So so done that. And then I've been very lucky that I've also traveled the world and been able to speak to different BNI regions and help different BNI national directors and their teams and executive directors and different people around the world, and also to corporations. I go and I do that's my consulting and training company. I go in and do a lot of leadership development, teamwork development, things like that with companies as well. So
that's amazing. I didn't
That's
know.
a lot.
Yeah, that you have a lot on your plate, but that's what makes you successful, is that you're able to handle it and do it successfully, and that
it's been an enjoyable life, that's for sure. So it's about I love being an entrepreneur, and that was kind of my first thing. I realized when I was in college, I started a first couple little businesses in college, and I loved doing that. And then when I got out of college, I decided I can't work for somebody else. I got to do it on my own. And I started probably wasn't my smartest idea out of college, starting a business without really having true world experience, but I made it work. It was hard. It was, especially the first 3, 4, 5 years. I was working like 3 part-time jobs to support myself while I was losing money at my business, and so trying to build it up and get it going. But, it was, and at that time I was working 7 days a week. I was working 110 to 120 hours a week. I'd put in, 18-hour days, 20-hour days. But you know what? I felt like I was on vacation. I absolutely loved it. I loved everything I was doing. I was passionate about it. So to me, it wasn't work. I was like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. It was almost like I'd go to sleep, and I was upset to go to sleep because I couldn't work on the business more, And so, but then I'd wake up the next morning with new ideas and what I could do. And I just love that, and I don't think I'd be a good employee. Maybe now, but back then I wouldn't be because I think if I was an employee and when I woke up, unless I truly loved my job, I'd wake up and be like, oh my God, like I can't do this, and I can tell you that would not be a good me. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm the type of person that I have to enjoy what I'm doing. I have to be happy every day. And the fact of thinking about the fact that people wake up every day not liking their job and going to work, I get, that kind of gives me shivers of even thinking about that, So, It's just not what I wanted to do. And if I did, I'd probably be that person that I'd always find a reason to be sick. Oh, I got to come in late. Oh, I'm not feeling good. Whatever it was, I'd be doing that type of thing. But the fact that I work for myself is, and the fact that every morning I wake up, I can make a decision if I'm going to work today or not, because I'm my own boss. And the
Yeah.
fact that I have that choice makes me work very hard, right? Because I'm just like, it's for me. I'm doing this for me. And the fact that I have that freedom allows me to work very hard at what I do, in that type of thing. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think certain people are more cut out for that. Like my husband, for instance, he wakes up every day, he hates his job. And I'm always like, well, we could start a business. I have my own little business. Let's focus on that. But he's more of he does not a risk taker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that you're either born a risk taker and you could, like you said, you jumped into it, you had to work extra to make that. He's not that type of person, and it's frustrating because yeah, then you're waking up miserable every day when you could be focused on building something of your own and not having to work under somebody.
You're 100% right at that. And it's really important, I think, for people who want to start a business to really either know or find out if they're really meant for that. So over the years, I've had many people refer people to me who wanted to start their own business. And they say, hey, Frank, I got a friend of mine, my cousin, whoever it was, that wants to start a business. Would you talk to them? I say, sure. And I'll sit down with people for free and have a conversation. When I have that first conversation, like this person's very serious about wanting to start their business, like meaning leaving a job or investing a lot of money to do that, I will sit with them for an hour or two. And what I'll do, my goal in an hour or two is to try to convince them why they should not start the business. Right. So I'll talk with them, be like, well, this could happen. It could be this. And like, and I get pretty darn convincing, I can tell you, because I can talk from real world experience, what can happen, bad credit that you can get in debt, you're stressed, amount of work, 7 days a week, all this kind of stuff. And if at the end of that meeting, person says like, yeah, I can't do that. There's no way I can do that. So if I've convinced them to not start their business, then what I really just did is I just saved them a lot of money and time. Because if I can convince you in an hour or two to not do your business, you were never meant to do it.
Yep.
But I've had those other people who at the end of 2 hours, they're just like, I don't care what you say, you son of a, I'm still going to do this. Okay, you're the man. Right there. I mean, at the end, you can just kind of swear me out and say, I don't care what you say, I'm going to do it. I'm like, now I know I got the right person now, right? Because they don't care what I say. They have it in their mind. They're going to do this no matter what. And that person's not going to be able to stop them. So that's really important, is to know what you're going into. And I would advise everybody before they start their own business, because there's many obstacles, many challenges to starting and running your business. So if you're going to go into that, speak to, if it's not like a coach or consultant, speak to business owners. Speak to 4 or 5 of them, maybe even in the industry you're going into, to get their feedback. What was it like to start a business for you? What would you do different? And find out what that work ethic is like and the hours you have to put in. It's a sacrifice. Starting your own business is a sacrifice. To me, it's well worth it, but to other people, it's not.
Yeah.
People want a simpler life. Let me just go to work, do my time, come get my paycheck, and I'm happy. And that's great. Nothing wrong with that. Not my style, but that's great. So I think it's important for people to do that. So it's, I think we've all heard data that says something like, out of all the small businesses that start in the first 3 years, 85% of those businesses will fail. And the next 3 years, 50% of those will fail, right? So I'm going to tell you why. Okay, the reason that 85% fail in the first 3 years is because 90% of them should never have started the business in the first place, because they weren't the right people. They weren't ready to do it. They were good at what they did. They were good at plumbing, or they were good at being an electrician, or they were good at, being a good florist, or whatever it might have been, but they didn't understand or know the business of the business, right? And that's where I think it's really important to understand, like, you may be good at what you do. You may have a skill set at what you do, but if you're going to have your own business, you have to understand marketing, sales, customer service, management, leadership, teamwork development, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of things to it. And over the years when I've consulted, I've consulted with like every type of business you can imagine. And people have asked me, how can you work with businesses and help businesses in all these different industries, from retail stores to manufacturers to tradespeople to doctors and lawyers and whatever it might be, like every business you can imagine. And I'd say, because I'm not helping that business. What I'm helping is the business of the business. So if you look at a business as being 100 layers, right? The top 30 layers of any business is that business. So it's a plumber. So it's a retail store. So it's a chiropractor. So it doesn't matter. But the rest of that, the other 70% is the business of the business. The principles are the same no matter what business it is.
Yeah.
Marketing principles are the same, right? Sales principles are the same. Leadership principles are the same. Infrastructure is the same. Budgeting is the same. I mean, it's the same but different, right? So are you going to market these different businesses in the same way? No, but you're going to use the same principles and then customize those principles to what they need to do. And the problem is people go into it and they really don't know. And most people don't know anything about marketing and sales. They know about their skill set. And those are probably the single most important things: marketing, sales, and then the financial side, being able to know how to budget and to make your money last, if you will. So those are the important things when you're going into it. So it's just starting business is very, very challenging. There's a lot of obstacles, and you have to make sure you're ready for it and you're doing as much as you can to make it happen. For me, back when I started, there was no Google back then, so you couldn't Google starting a business, right? Basically, I just started doing what I thought made sense. But then I devoured knowledge. So I bought books, I bought audio tapes. I did that at one point, just a couple of years ago. I moved out of my office. I had over 600 books there that I had read on everything you can imagine, from marketing and sales to leadership to, everything. And so I do books and audio books, but I just gain more knowledge, gain more knowledge, gain more knowledge, and apply it to my street knowledge. And that's really what allowed me to learn how to grow my business and failing a lot.
Yeah.
I'm going to do this. This is a great idea. And I go, okay, that was not a good idea, And so it's making sure you're not doing that again. And so it's like, well, that lost me some money. I'm not going to do that again.
Yeah.
So it's learning as you go forward.
Yeah, we've definitely learned.
Yeah, it's hard, and for you to bounce back, and that's important too, because some people would feel defeated like that. I can get that way where I'm like, this is stupid. What's the point of me doing this? It's failing. But for you to be like, no, all right, that didn't work. Let's try something else. Let's try something else. And I admire that. I really do. That's
Most people
Well,
have given up.
yeah.
I think in business, Lala, it when you fail at something, what you really done is you've just discovered the right way not to do something.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now I know that's not right. So, but then I can adjust that and go forward. So, and I think today, in my opinion, it's probably much easier to get a business going today because there's so much knowledge online between books and audiobooks and podcasts and now videos. Like you could probably go on YouTube and say, how do you start up and name any type of business? How do you start and name the business?
Yeah.
And there'll be like 8,000 videos showing you how, and people have courses. There's so many things to do that way. So it's really great to have that and all that knowledge available to you. Plus, marketing wise, I mean, now the internet is like, a great marketing tool. So now there's all these different ways you can do it, a lot of it for free. And other ones, even if you're paying for marketing on these different social media platforms, they're not very expensive in comparison to other things, right? In terms of that. So it's knowing what works for you and how to work it, and then using traditional methods, so putting postcards together and actually mailing them to people's houses, and things like that, whatever it might be. There's all different ways to make it work for people. So it's really finding out what's going to work best for you in terms of that, so it's interesting.
Yeah. I'm trying to be more focused on that. It's hard, it is hard. And then you go about with self-doubt, and then like you said, things failing and trying to find the right groove to make things like, oh, I failed at this. All right, let's move on to this and that. And it's like a puzzle, trying to make the perfect puzzle, all the pieces fit together perfectly to make it work. So
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think part of that is um if you understand the foundational principles of business, what makes it work, and let's say marketing being one of them, what you need to know then is, are you a marketing person like me? Do you enjoy that process of coming up with the creative ideas for marketing and how to put it together? Like you can read about it and do all that, but if you're really not into it, then you're not going to do a great job at it. And if you're not and say, well, then I guess it'll be a failure. No. Now you know what you're not good at or you don't want to do. So find somebody who can do that for you.
yeah.
Right? That's the key is fill in your gaps, know what your strength is and work in your strength, and then have other people fill up around that. Have other people help you in that way. And that's what I find a lot like in BNI is you're in a chapter, you're trying to do something and you get all these different business perspectives from people. People are willing to help you and give you advice and, do those type of things. And that's really wonderful to see that type of camaraderie come together of small business owners and sales professionals working together to help each other and really grow. And that's what's one of the things I hear all the time, not just in our region, but from regions around the world when I've traveled, is people just say, the camaraderie, the idea of everybody coming together to help me. They feel like they have a real support team in place to help them do what they want to do. I know a lot of people who worked for a corporation or a business, and they then decided they were going to go out on their own. And they told me the only reason I decided to go on my own was because I knew my BNI chapter would support me. So they went out and they instantly had that group of people that were going to help them refer business to them, do business with them, and help them kind of get off the ground. And they had to invest, virtually nothing to do that, okay, depending on the type of business it is. So it's important to make sure what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you need to strengthen yourself as in terms of going forward. So I've seen that over the years when I've done a lot of consulting and training and coaching with companies as well. So it's good. It's good to see people come together and help each other out in that way.
No, I saw that. I just went to one meeting and I did see that. I saw everyone was helpful. They were so nice. They were like they wanted to help. Like, what can I do for you? I had Devin, what can I do to help your business grow? And I thought that was just amazing. It was really nice. And you don't really see that in the real world. I'm not that BNI is not a real world,
All
but
right.
you know what I mean?
Well, you saw a post today on Facebook that, what was it about, not saying please and thank you? Like,
Yeah, people were asking, they've been going to businesses lately and it seems like everyone's so robotic and they don't even say you're welcome. If you say, you say thank you to a cashier, they just ignore you. And a woman was like, "What's going on in the business world?" And unfortunately, there was a few people who defended it and was like, "Well, they don't need to say you're welcome. They're probably, overloaded mentally from the day at the work and this and that." And I'm like, what happened to all how business used to be run where you have that respect for your customer and appreciation? So it was crazy. Just
Yep. And I believe that type of thing starts from the top down, right? So the person who owns the business or runs that, the general manager, whoever it might be, it's that person that if they're, how are they instilling that in the people that work for them, right? In terms of their training and development and what they're doing, in terms of how do they treat the people that work with them, and are they modeling what they want to see those people do? And I remember working for one company and we're doing a customer service thing, and I said, okay, we're going to go out. We did like a class trip that day, right? And about 15 of us. And I said, so we're going to go out. We're going to go into different stores. We're going to go around and maybe we're going to buy a little something. And I said, and what we're going to do is when we go up to the cash register and we go to pay for it, we're going to pay for it. And then after they give us our receipt back, and we're going to look at them and say, thank you so much. And I said, they'll probably say thank you, whatever else. But here's the deal. If we say thank you before they did, they just failed. They just failed. Like, I just said thank you for letting me buy something for you, which
yeah.
makes no sense, right? So that person should, as they're handing you the receipt, to say, oh, thank you so much. Hope you have that. Anything else I can do for you? Let us know. And really kind of greeting you, making you feel good in terms of that. But if you do it, or if they just say, oh, you're welcome, then they didn't get it, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean they're a bad person. It means they weren't trained correctly. Or it could also mean when you, like what you said, some people, you go in and they don't give a reaction, they're doing whatever is, then it could be that they're not the right match for the job. Like, that's not the person you should have doing that job, in terms of it. And it was just like, I'll tell you a funny story. It was a BNI meeting actually years ago. And I was the director. I go to the chapter meeting, and basically what happens when you go to a chapter meeting in person, there's a table. It's called the visitors table when you walk in, and you walk up, and there's people there to greet you. The visitor host to greet you. Hi, how are you? Are you here for BNI? Just like somebody in a restaurant, like greets you as you walk in, right? The hostess. And so I walk in, and usually like you have the visitor host is usually very lively, and I walk in. There's this guy who's standing there, and he's like tall. He's like 6'5" or something, or bigger. I mean, he's big, and he's standing there. And so I walk over and I was like, I'm walking up and he's just standing there alone. And I was like, hi. And he's like, hi. And I was like, hi, put my hand out. I said, I'm Frank De Raffele. I'm a director. I'm here for the meeting today. He says, you're here for the BNI meeting? I said, yeah. And he just says, can you sign in for me? I was like, sure. So I sign in. Do you have 2 business cards? I was like, sure. I take out business cards. Now they're BNI business cards. Okay. And I hand him the BNI business cards and he looks and I can see he's very confused. Like, why do I have BNI logos on my cards? Like even though I've already said a director, he just didn't get that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just like, okay. And he's like, who invited you here today? I was like, I'm the director. I'm here doing a visit to do whatever else. And he's like, okay. And do you know how the meeting worked? And as he's saying this, I'm just like, oh my God,
Oh.
kill me now. The president, hey, Frank, how are you? And we go walking back in and I'm walking. I said, what was that? He goes, I know. He's just stepping in. Our visitor host, couldn't be here. And we had somebody step in. He stepped up. I said, okay. I said, God bless him. I said, but that's not the right guy for the job. I said, basically having Lurch at the front door was not the right have there. I'm just like he's like he just and God, he was doing the best he could. And by the way, he did everything technically right, right? But he didn't have the personality for it.
Yeah.
That wasn't his comfort zone. So it wasn't bad on his part. It was, well, for our part, it was a bad hire, right? I mean, we put the wrong person in the wrong position, even though he was very nice, right? Whatever else, but he was just so dry and like didn't make you feel welcome.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's another chapter I went to speaking about the opposite. And I go in, I've never met them before, and I walk in this restaurant and I see like I can't find they're in the back. And I look, I'm like, is that they're like, are you here for BNI? Yeah, come here, come on. And I'm like, okay, okay.
Tone it down.
Yeah.
You're Frank, you're the director. Oh my God, come here. And they give me this big hug. And it's like, that's great. I was like, yeah. I'm like, oh, that's fantastic. Come here, Frank, come inside. Hey, everybody. Hey, this is Frank. He's a director with BNI. Everybody's like, oh my God. They come over, they're giving me hugs. I'm like, oh my God. This is like, I'm Italian. This is like going to Thanksgiving or Christmas with my grandma. Everybody's hugging. Oh, Frank, you're so cute. Pinching me and kissing me. I'm just like, oh my gosh, right? So, but they're known as the hugging chapter. That's their reputation. And I felt so welcome, so wonderful when I went there. I was like, I didn't want to leave. I said, I don't want to leave. I love you guys. So it's just one of those things that sometimes I look at like a BNI meeting and it's a microcosm of what business is. Are we doing all those right things and are they making them really work? So that's the key of it is, if you're going to go into your own business, make sure you know what you're doing. Know there's going to be a lot of obstacles and challenges as you go forward. Gain the knowledge you need, get a support system around you. Do not try to do it on your own. Do not try and do it on your own. You need that other knowledge. You need people to kind of guide you in what you need to do. Really important.
So if our listeners want to start a business and want you to coach them, how do they go about contacting you?
Probably best is if you go to my website, which is pretty simple. It's just frankderaffele.com. So the last name's not easy, but frankderaffele.com. And it's just Frank and then DeRaffele is DeRaffele. Right there.
Oh yeah, right in the corner.
You go to frankderaffele.com, and that's my speaking site. So they'll see videos of me speaking and that type of thing. But also, if they wanted to find out more, they can just email me there as well. Or I'm also, for BNI, it's a simple email. It's just Frank at BNIHV for Hudson Valley. BNIHV.com is my email. BNIHV.com. So I really appreciate you having me on today. This has been great.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. I hope that people utilize BNI or for their businesses or coaching. And I'm saying, guys, firsthand, I went to one meeting and it was great. And I still have connections from the one meeting. So I can't even imagine if I was in it every week, how many connections I would have or make. And so
And you make different connections too. There's not just, our meeting every Wednesday. They have different get-togethers.
oh yeah, like the
and-
luncheon or breakfast you were telling me something
Yeah, I
about.
think
Yeah.
they have a luncheon, they have a breakfast, then they have like different events around the county,
That's cool.
and you meet just
Do it.
other members.
Yeah, we do. We do. Sometimes we even do axe throwing at night. So there you go.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
That's
There's axe
cool.
throwing. Yeah, been fun, different things like that. So we always try and find different reasons, different fun ways to get together outside the meeting and make them very productive in terms of that. So, but if LaLa, if you were in the group on a regular basis, we'd just be over your house wanting to get
Eating?
more and more food from you.
I know. I'll have to make you all cannolis and some pasta.
There you go.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. We loved having you. And I mean, Shawna, you see him all the time. But...
Every Wednesday.
So thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Let me know if there's anything I could do for you guys. Okay.